Being a child wasn't always as great as it seemed. Sure, you didn't have many responsibilities, you didn't have to worry about a job or a family, you didn't have to worry about being on time to anything because that was up to your parents. But what you did have to worry about was when you told people what was in your closet, they didn't believe you. In fact, they flat out ignored you, acting as if your words and pleas of fear were some kind of ploy. Days were fun, filled with laughter, but at night you had to go back to that room. The room with the door. The room with the door to the closet. "Good night, honey," said my mom, as she kissed me on the forehead and put me to bed. My eyes begged her not to go, but I didn't expect to get anywhere from begging her to stay. As usual, she shut the door. And that, as usual, is where it all started for the night. I sat there for a few minutes, staring at the closet door, waiting for something to happen, and, as usual, just as I expected to finally get a good night's sleep, I heard its distinct creak. It opened just enough that on the inside I could see the rustling of my clothes in the closet. My eyes teared up. All I wanted to do was sleep. I just wanted to shut my eyes and know that I was safe and alone, and that I could wake up and feel rested for the first time in a year. But that night wasn't the night. Soon, my bed began to rustle. Just a slow shuffle at first, but it got more rapid, more fierce. It started playfully, but always felt as if it became angry when I hid, especially when I tried to hide. Next, the sheets began to come off. At first, it's always just a light tug, but when I held onto the sheets harder and harder, it would rip them off, exposing me to it with nowhere to hide. Next, it would rip the pillows out from under my head and spill the water by my bed if I had any. When I was fully exposed, though, the violence always stopped. From there, it would play with the dangling fish from my ceiling, or spin the fan, or open books on my bookshelves. Sometimes, this made me curious. I wondered if I was approaching this thing the wrong way. It was terrifying, yes, but sometimes I thought all it really wanted was a friend, and this particular night, I was just done with it. I needed something to change. I didn't care how scary it was. I didn't care if it killed me, because the lack of sleep would kill me before it did. Looking down on the floor, I saw some horse figurines that I normally had on my shelf were dancing around, running in circles. Summoning up my courage, I hopped out of bed and turned on my lights and began to chase them with some toy soldiers I had by my bed. Sure enough, it went along with my game, running from the soldiers all over the room. Next, it gently threw a book over to me. It wasn't forceful, but rather felt like a suggestion. I halfway smiled, still afraid, and opened it. I began to read the book. It was a Berenstain Bears book, one of my favorites. I read it with the emotion and spirit and excitement that I always read that book with. After I finished, the book was gently tugged out of my hands and placed back on the shelf. Then, one of the stuffed animals I had by the closet stood up, waved at me, and then fell over on its side, and the closet creaked to a shut. That was odd. This had never happened before. This always went on for hours, but when I interacted with it, it ended almost immediately. After this experience, whatever it was that tormented me never came out of the closet again. I guess I'd fulfilled what it needed. Sometimes I guess the terrifying things in life only need a different approach to seem far less daunting.